Jen, I guess we got to start with the $1.72 because I'm not going to be able to get past that. What's the math that the jury used to come up with this fee, and why is this important?
So that fee was actually derived by an expert economist that had been hired by the plaintiffs for the purposes of the state laws that they alleged were violated to determine what the damages amount should be. And I know that $1.72 amount seems very low. And I think when it came out in trial, we all were a bit surprised as well. But you have to realize that that's for every single ticket sold for a fairly long span of years in 24 states. So the total amount will really add up. I mean, theoretically, that total amount would be in the multi-millions, possibly even more. So while it sounds low, it could still end up being a pretty big recovery for the states that are still in as plaintiffs. But it wasn't really the jury's math. It was the experts' math that the juries decided to accept.
Who's experts?
The expert hired by the plaintiffs, Dr. Rosa Abrantes Metz.
Okay.
Ask and you shall get the answer, Carol.
It's Jen Reed.
Yeah, she knows.
I should know my audience. Is significant this ruling, and does it have implications for others?
I think this ruling is significant because honestly, it's been over the years very, very difficult for plaintiffs to win monopolization suits against big companies. And in particular, a suit like this one where the federal government is no longer in the case because they settled, and it's a group of states only going out on their own. And it just shows that plaintiffs can win these monopolization suits where they have compelling evidence, even where it's really hard fought by the defense. Because I have to say, having been to quite a bit of that trial, the defense put on a really good case as well. And at the end, I think most people who had been watching weren't too sure how this was going to come out.
I'm looking at some other companies that may be affected by this. Competitor StubHub up 3%. Shares quickly moved higher after this. Vivid Seats up as much as 8% or 8% as we speak right now. Apart from the $1.72 per ticket, Jen, a remedy that could include a breakup. Is that a realistic? Is that realistic here?
I think the states will go for that. I don't know how realistic it is. I think that's a tall ask for any judge and would be stuck in appeals for years. Because if the judge did order something like that, Live Nation would certainly appeal and ask for it to be stayed. And I certainly think it would be stayed. I'm not exactly sure what the judge can do here because, the issue is that Live Nation really has power in so many different components of the concert experience from, start A to the end to the concert that it blocks out all those other competitors. Those companies that you just named that where stock has reacted is because they all claim to be blocked out of the market by Ticketmaster and Live Nation's tactics. So what they're all hoping is that there's a remedy here that stops Live Nation from really preventing some of these other ticketing agents to get in there and ticket venues for big shows. And that's what the judge is really going to have to do. It's now up to the states to proffer something, to suggest what they think is the right breakup, in addition to a divestiture of Ticketmaster, because they have to have an alternative in case the judge isn't willing to stick his neck out that far.
I mean, Jen, you look at this stuff all the time, pretty clear cut. I mean, I think some of us are thinking, there's not a lot of choices when you go to buy tickets. And it's a little frustrating when you're trying to make sense of fees and the cost. But is it kind of like, it was just a matter of time before this had to be looked at?
I see it that way. Absolutely. And I think that there's a history here by which Live Nation has behaved badly, according to the government. They entered a consent order in 2010 when they acquired Ticketmaster, and they were found several years later during the first Trump administration to have violated that order. The order was clarified, supplemented, and extended, and apparently they're still violating that order. So yes, Carol, for people who've been watching, they think something has to be done beyond just telling the company you must behave in a certain way that the company ignores.
I got to say, there's got to be a point when I think about all the things we talk about, blockchain and digital, like, why can't you just go on a site and just pay for it directly, right? So the money goes to the performers and everybody who's involved in the production, and not just all these extra fees that make you wonder what's up.
Right. Well, I think the venues have exclusive agreements with these ticketers, right?
But why? Why not have all the money just go right to the venues and the performers and the people who actually are putting on the production? Why do we need all these intermediaries?
the company that has control over most of the industry has set it up in such a complicated way that it benefits their bottom line and not necessarily the artist or the venue's bottom line. And that was a big part of this trial.